free to. And a warning, we will be making a show of our own next semester using this, okay? And we may well run all of this show. So we're really interested in providing small ensembles, something that's pretty easy to use with to make their own multimedia shows. Okay, so that's the goal. So if you've got any questions, wait and ask them, and then Raphael's going to transcribe this stuff because we're concerned with the efficacy. Okay. And Maestro, whenever you're ready. Hey Vivian, how you doing? Good. You had a good weekend?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, how many parties did you go to?
One.
One? Good. I only went to one. And what did you dress up as? He was a priest. I was a plague doctor. That one I could go and have a mask on it. So I thought, oh, it's not catch COVID. Oh, do you want to move that? A bit more comfortable. Not too loud, baby.
Something's not right with how this title is set up because it doesn't play in
like later I'll hit play and then do a few bar and then
it doesn't play when you want.
And we just like to get maybe two run-throughs together, you know, help what you guys are feeling.
If it's not playing,
But it holds everything.
yeah, then that's what it does. And then you have the sustain pedal holds everything, and then you have with that one. So it doesn't change. You have to play.
So holding everything.
Play. End up using it. Just hold it down with the keyboard if you can. I don't know. Maybe we could just switch the.
You want to just switch the plugs?
One second, turn it down.
I mean, I don't usually use those pedals.
No, I didn't know. I didn't notice you using them before. Just
Yeah.
that's good enough. Yeah, I find that sustain pedal actually tough to use because you have to click it on and then you reverse it. And so. How is the balance? Do you want to just check the balance of the first chord?
Sure.
Make sure the organ's not too loud.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's just go
Because we want it to fill.
from the beginning. Yeah.
You just do a few measures and then check the balance.
Good, and then when people have their sort of like solo parts, just
all right.
bring it out.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Just a second, it's loading this. Let me do a calibration.
Around the 50th day, they meet in a museum filled with ageless animals.
Good. You guys played really beautifully. That was really wonderful. I couldn't tell how close the pictures were.
Yeah, we need a score. I mean, we got 18 scores, but none of us
Yeah.
one that should look at. Yeah, there's an error at the beginning, but this is because of the transition, trying to get into it. Because Christos, didn't you say that it pretty much doesn't do anything for the first half
The
of the
problem
hour?
was that it started after anything to do the images before they started playing.
Well, no, there's
some problem with the threshold.
No, there's two images that look exactly the same. The one with the manta, one of them has got his feet behind it, and the other one doesn't. So that's why those look similar. But the problem is it won't give me the first trigger of the bar. I don't think so. We can try.
Why did it start? Why did it start earlier before the music? This was playing already. I think it was something with the threshold. It just started.
I mean, I have the threshold up at way high, but I'll bring it up. Let's go all the way to one. I got a lot of.
I think it might be because of the voice. The voice triggered the sound.
Wait, yeah, but that should have gone in bar 2.
But at the beginning we didn't have it.
I moved it over so it wouldn't be there, but I'm not sure. Okay, let's try it without running too late. Let's see if it'll work that way.
Thanks everyone for bearing with us. This is the purpose of the exercise, is to get this to work. So thank you.
Well, when I added the audio, all of a sudden I figured out that it doesn't listen the same way I was expecting.
Yeah,
It doesn't give me the first cue.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
first
no,
bar.
and-
I even moved it over
yeah,
a beat, and it still won't.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to find out. That's the purpose
Yeah.
of the experiment,
Okay.
is to mess with it.
I need to see what's going on in the background. I'm sorry.
Around the 50th day,
Okay,
they
yeah,
meet in a museum filled with ageless animals.
I can't see it. Sorry. Okay. This is there.
Another run through?
her stops talking, listens to her, then vanishes.
That was really good. Pictures worked really, really well there.
I'm just going to take a screenshot of this whole thing.
Yeah, that was really good job, guys. Again, that sounded really wonderful.
Yeah, so it looks like the error was, go ahead and tell it to start at 283 instead of advancing at that one, because that was causing it the confusion. So we should, I mean, if we have time, we can do a little bit, or if you want us to switch over to discussion, we can do that too.
One more maybe.
One more maybe?
Yeah.
Right, one more time, thanks.
It's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and hit reset like we did before, and hopefully give it a second to reload. And I set the threshold higher. So go ahead and hit play, and you should be able to just.
playing was really good. Chris, I noticed that the pictures after the general pause were a little slow.
Yep, it's right here, we can look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it got to 3:31.
Yeah, but it caught up. But that was good. All right, well, let's just stop playing and do some questions here. Raffaella, do you want to start first?
Well, no,
questions?
you start.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess my first question is, I have only two questions for you. One, how about the score? I mean, it's an unusual combination, isn't it? 2 violins, 2 cellos, 2 trebles. So how were the parts to play? Was it user-friendly? Trevor, Israel, were they okay? Or?
Yeah, it was easy to,
Easy to follow?
Did I put enough cues in there?
Yeah.
I usually over-cue my parts a little.
I mean, I have to say, I felt the two of you blended. You kind of like formed a little clique there, a little cell, and it sounded like a good little trumpet group. How about cello parts? Okay. Yeah, Jason, as you got more familiar with it, you started playing alpha da, and it was sounding much more. I mean, it's a date theme, so we wanted to. And fiddles, I thought you guys sounded great, and I particularly like the way you kind of balanced your sounds. Were the parts easy, hard to play? All right.
yeah,
They're okay. Okay. Well, what could we have made them better then? If the okay's not. Is it okay?
Yeah, they're good. Like,
Oh, all right. I mean, all right. But the rhythms, that's built into the score. Okay, so scores. And next question that we really have for you: would you, if you had the opportunity as a group, as groups of players, not necessarily this group, but among your friends, would you guys want to make multimedia shows that have pictures? Is this something that you would use if you had the opportunity? In general. Yuen, would you like to do shows where you're playing the piano and pictures came up and?
PowerPoint.
Well, this would replace PowerPoint. This is like fancy.
This is automatic
This is automatic PowerPoint, so you would just play and you wouldn't need. Would that be something that you would find interesting to do? That you might program?
Program.
Yeah, put on a console.
Python. Like Python.
Would you do that?
Oh, no, not right now.
What I've seen is a lot of people have been using PowerPoint to put
and
pictures
they
of
use a
flowers
foot
up behind
trigger.
their songs and things like that. And so if you're already doing that, what we wanted to do was build a system where you don't have to push a button for every new picture. We wanted the button to listen to you. You just play, and then it'll put up the pictures in whatever order you want.
So would that be something that would interest you in doing, like, David? Would you ever imagine doing?
I think it would be interesting to do with a big organ.
Yeah, I think it'd be great with the.
Well, how many of you guys use notation software for exercises, arrangements for ensembles? Okay, because that is really the only prerequisite. Is you need a score, and then you put in what you want to happen where in the score. You export it out a couple different ways, and then you just feed it into this thing through the magic of Christos, and it kind of works. Hopefully, at some point, we're going to have it work where it's a bit more seamless than this, but that's the only prerequisite of having that. Maybe a student thing on QLab.
Yeah, and maybe. And do most of you have like a streaming mic, something like that, a USB mic to plug into your? Do most of you have
and
that?
Even the webcam mic is not. It seems to work pretty well. So it's like not a lot of hardware investment, and it's more of just kind of a time and conceptual thing on how to put it together.
And Catherine, the other reason that we do this is that even if in our band we have 8, 10, but we're about the same size as you guys. We have 2 keyboards, violin, cello, double bass. I have a fetish for low sounds.
Sometimes we get a tam-tam.
And sometimes a tam-tam. And then we don't have a viola, but we have a trumpet, trombone, and an alto sax. We have an alto sax player who's a new music guy, but has a really lovely, lush sound. So he can cover as a viola if we need him to be, and sort of still sound like a brass instrument with the chip. So and the reason why we do this is because we can do it in a fairly small space, and if we're raising money, we don't have to. It's a lot easier, cheaper for me to raise money for 8 people than 80 people. Okay, and while you're in the School of Music, recruiting how big and how many people and what room you can check out, you'll already have realized there's an issue, right? So my group doesn't want conductors, but we find conductors helpful in ensemble. And one of the reasons that conductors is an issue is that, Catherine, if you had a film here, you would actually have to be conducting to the film. You'd have to memorize or have a click track where all the pictures. Would you find that doing it this way, where you're just conducting the group, rather than having to fit to the video, would you find that significantly easier to do?
To connect with the film?
Yeah, for you to just conduct the group rather than constantly have to line up.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely easier. Yeah, like I was watching like the RPO like Harry Potter concert, as many people did, and I was watching like the conductor with like the film playing on his computer, and there's like flashing lights and like all these things.
That's how they do it when they record the
and,
soundtracks.
Yeah, right. And like it would just be a lot more work, I think, or like, you would have to really like try to line up and coordinate with that. So I think.
And what I find interesting about this is instead of having to build all the streamers and all that stuff to tell you what to do, basically you're already putting together the score and you say, I want this picture or this sound to happen at this point in the score. I basically just added an extra instrument for the cues to Dorco. And when you spit that out, our software will pick all that up, that plus a MIDI file, and you render out the Dorco like acoustic sound stuff. And those 3 files go in there, and then it knows what you want, and so then it will respond when you play live.
My last question for the instrumentalist is, this is not okay. I'm not going to take the record of this. How many of you actually watched the film, and did it matter to you, particularly because you all sounded very expressive, and it was a date theme, and you caught what the music's about very well.
Can we see it later?
Yeah, we can watch it. Well, actually,
I loaded it up.
Yeah, we can watch it.
One of the really interesting things about it is the music is so low in the film.
Yeah.
This is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Because you're actually focusing as much on the music as on the pictures, because basically the music was way ducked down below the dialogue and stuff like that.
But one of the reasons I've noticed that my group, and they're all faculty members, so these are some of your teachers, they never watch the film. They don't really want to watch the film. All they care about is the ensemble of listening to making sure that they're as musicians playing with their other musician. Simon and Lisa, you guys were really a fairly tight group pairing there, and the 2 trumpets were definitely. Did you find yourself listening a lot following Simon? Because even your tone, the sound qualities were pretty close, I thought. And the 2 trumpets, you guys definitely. How much do you 2 play together, Trevor?
Actually, like a decent amount. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Do you guys play in string quartet together, Lisa and? Yeah. But
stand partners in orchestra.
Oh, you are stand partners in orchestra too. Oh, interesting. How about you 2, Joseph and Jason?
I think we are listening to each other.
No, yeah, I think you are. My point being, it's more important to you to be listening to your player than watching the movie. Is what I'm reading, and that's what I've always. And it was also the reason why, I'm not angry that you don't watch the film. Although I think it's a fabulous film, and it's like one of my top 5 films of all time. It's really weird and dark and influential. I put up on the board. It's an example. 1964. This is one of the first films explicitly about the Holocaust that was ever made it out. There was another film by Alan Rene about 8 years earlier, 6 years ago, who actually took the cameras into Buchenwald. But so these are really influential, politically active films. And Chris Marker was he graduated, but he wanted to make a film, and he could only rent a camera for 1 day, and he couldn't work it very well. So in the film, there's only about 2 or 3 seconds of actual film footage. But he had a camera, and he went around Paris to these locations and took about 500 or 600 stills, and then assembled them. So it's like you going around with your iPhone and just going around campus and taking pictures. And then he assembled this film and got someone to write the score for him. And it was really low budget. A couple of, I mean, I don't even know back then. And this is a film that, if you know Terry Gilliam, the guy who did Monty Python graphics, or you might have seen some Terry Gilliam, his favorite films like 12 Monkeys is based upon this. So it's an incredibly influential avant-garde film made on an absolute shoestring. You know, one day of camera rental. About Holocaust. I mean, and there's amazing sound effects, and he couldn't afford it, so you can really hear like fake heartbeats, and they artificially made all of this stuff. So, a student, you could make a film like this. You know, I mean, he might not be as good at filmmaking as Chris Mark was. I mean, he's a really amazing filmmaker, but it's a low-tech film, and that's the reason why we're interested in it too, because the stills, there's an awful lot of them, and if you were doing PowerPoint. There's no way you could be pressing
there's
500
460
in less than about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could be so it would be impossible to render this film any other way, really.
Well, and the other point I would make is that it's a different film every time you play it.
Yeah.
Because it's responding to your performance instead of being a fixed piece of celluloid that you're doing and you figure out how to match it. No, you cut it up in such a way that you kind of can recreate the film based upon your interpretation and move things around and
And also, if we discovered a new version of the film with some extra bits, we could just insert them really easily and adapt the score that way. So it's doing it this way. You can change pictures if you're making a new show. You can just sort of decide you like the score.
You can rebuild it at Rochester's airport.
You can do it. You can reenactment, with a toy plane or whatever you want to do in your back garden. Okay, I'm done with questions. How about you, Raphael?
Okay, Ella, go for it.
Yeah, I was very curious about the game. How did you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, like, once again, I think, at least like compared to the alternative, like it's a lot easier. It was really easy to just, like, this is kind of like, I'm not really a conductor. I don't really have much experience with this, but it was really easy to just kind of pay attention to like the ensemble and not really have to worry about like lining up exactly with like a certain like at like 50 seconds of the film, like it has to be like this part in the score or something like that. So I think like, well, I couldn't really see, but I'm pretty sure it worked out pretty well, like syncing up with the images. So overall, it was a really easy experience. Like I didn't really have trouble with
In another version of this, we probably have a little confidence monitor right here, so you could see what was going on and if something happened with some control stuff.
No, but yeah, overall, a very like straightforward.
So it took away some of the tension and anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
Would have been there if you
like,
had to pay attention.
Yeah, like if I had to like watch the film and sort of line it up like just to the exact like already preset time of the film, it would take a lot more preparation. I would have had to study it for a really long time just on my own, even before trying to conduct it. So definitely this made it easier. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask Matthew and Chris. So obviously the big work was setting it up, right? I mean, telling the computer and software when to get the
The
pictures
majority
to
of the
come
time
out.
goes into the pre-production phase of
So
getting.
what would it take for someone like you to do that? And what do you think would it take? And would you feel confident that you could learn how to set it up so that you could really be independent?
Yeah, I think I do feel confident in learning because we mentioned that a lot of it is like creating like a score for the computer program to follow, which like I'm familiar with creating those things using computer software. I'm pretty sure like almost all musicians are these days, but certainly conductors have to be familiar with scores and things like that. So that part wouldn't be a problem. And then I think it's just a matter of sort of telling the computer like where you want certain images to load.
And you can, and actually you can just do those as MIDI events, as if it's like a percussion track is the way I set it up.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And so when that goes out into MIDI and XML, which I think all the programs do that, plus a WAV file, then it has a listing of all of the bars on the left and all of the cues, and it just makes an alignment between them based upon that.
Yeah.
So the biggest hurdle that we've got right now is there's a little bit of conversion stuff to get those three files into well, it's a dictionary that the software uses to look up as it's listening to what's going on. And that's still a little typing going on in there, but that's something that I think we can address fairly easily. And the interface stuff is just some tweaks to make sure that you have the information you need to know when it's listening, when it's doing stuff, and also be able to kind of have a bit more control of rehearsal, being able to move around and things like that. There's a couple of different ways to manage that I've been testing out. But for today, since we were just kind of doing a playthrough, I have it set just to go. And as you saw, once we got the proper threshold, you were there for 45 seconds, something like that. There's a little paper shuffling and things like that, and then it went right on when everybody started playing. So it's just kind of a balance of what's in the room, what mic you're using, and how close everybody is and stuff. But yeah, that last run through, I think, went pretty well.
So next semester, when we're going to do we will be building a project. So
did you have I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure Rafael didn't have a follow-up.
I had one more question, which was, I noticed at some point at the very beginning you said, we need to calibrate, and you had them play for a little bit before you got started. What does that mean, and what would the conductor do if you weren't there?
Basically, I have it set up where you can push a button and a little red light comes on, and there's some numerical data. And so when they're playing, that note or that number goes to like 1, 2, or 3. And so all you want to do is then say, okay, well, I don't want the score follower to start doing anything until that number gets above, in this case, I put it to 0.8. So we have a lot of like ambient noise would be ignored, and then once the mics started crossing, and since everybody starts playing it together at the beginning, if it had been solo cello or something like that, we might have had to tweak that a little bit. But then once it gets started, it doesn't care anymore. It will just go through the whole thing.
But then the conductor would have to know that, right? And would have to.
Oh yeah, it's just like sort of like just to test the levels.
Yeah, and she was doing it. She saw how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got
as well.
some little. That was one of the things I was doing this week, is adding some more interface elements so you can tell what's going on. Because I was talking to Christos about this, and it's one of those things where, do you want to check the room before the audience is in there, or if they're in there, maybe the whole ambient level will be a little higher, so while they're tuning, maybe that's where you can basically hold it, they tune, you can see what the difference is, and then just type in a number, and you should be good to go. And then of course, you know, they can always make adjustments at, like, in between movements, or you know, because there's a little bit of time depending on how big the sections are, on how long it takes to load up the next section. So if you're going from, you know, 25-minute movement to a 10, you might be. But yeah, I think it's coming along, the interface. It does a lot of what I want it to do, but the implementation is still needs some refinement.
Joe, do you have a question? Because we're going to have to end in a few minutes.
One thing is, you know, we're talking about augmented concert. We're augmenting a concert with visuals, maybe animation or sound effects, maybe smoke, lighting, water fountain, those kind of things. So now my question is, you know, you guys play in orchestras or in ensembles, and let's say one day you are directing the orchestra or managing the orchestra, and you said you might explore the idea of augmenting the concert with other modalities. But my question is, what factors would you consider that would affect your decision on using the augmented concert mode to your audience? Would that be music, or the technology reliability, or the budget, or the content you want to deliver, whatever? So it's a very open-ended question. So what factors would you consider that will affect your decision of using augmented concert, like deliver augmented concert? In contrast to the classical
augmented concert.
Yeah, no, it's having extra things other than just playing a string quartet as a string quartet. What would influence your decision to put pictures to it?
Augmented. Bringing in other.
Yeah, you know, you're bringing other things in, just multimedia. Yeah, like when you go to a rock concert, they have lights and smokes and stuff. That would be an augmented concert rather than a normal piano recital where you sit down and play the piano.
I mean, you guys have seen it, Tomorrowland. I mean, you know, Deadmau5 is up there with like 18,000 screens. He's got that box done. He built that in TD.
Yeah, same thing. So
You know, and so you can scale it up, but you ask why someone might want to be able to do something like
Yeah.
that. Well, is it to get the people to dance and jump into the air? Is it to
Yeah.
provide some sort of historical context like we did with the parks, national parks
Yeah.
show? Or we even did a recreation of Martha Graham for the Copeland,
Yeah.
just using stills from that. And that was actually a very cool thing. You play the ballet, and instead of having the dancers, you have these beautiful stills kind of animating in time with the original music. So there's just a bunch of different things. But yeah, I'm very curious what you guys think from the younger perspective.
Do you mean like what are we considering when we are like doing an augmented concert?
yeah, why would you think about doing it?
Yeah, like in what situation you would consider using an automatic concert versus the classical type of concert?
Do you when you're playing a certain movement, how about you change the wash colors from blue to purple?
I think
It could be something as simple as that.
it's just like pop up idea, but like for like creating like classical music, sometimes we need like images in our mind. I think it would be a good way.
Would you be wanting to share that with the audiences, or is that more for? Yeah. So if you guys have.
expressive that way, because it provides like.
That's what we, yeah, so you open it up to the visual medium for the audience, and you guys get to choose those visuals to help further tell the story beyond just playing the chaconne or whatever directly.
Yeah, I think one of like the big factors for me would be probably like the audience, like what would be cool for like the audience to see, rather than sort of like, I mean they're all important, but just like budget or just like the musicians, I think like if there's something interesting, like I know like right now like some of the film play-alongs are really popular with audiences, like it gets sold out, but as well, like I know a lot of new composers are writing sort of multimedia works that like have images and things to go along with that. That would be something like I would be interested in. So like I think there's like a bunch of cool possibilities for multimedia that definitely would be interesting to put on for the audience. And then I think after deciding like what you sort of want to put on, then like figuring out how to like make it work with like the musicians or technology or things like that would probably be something that I'd be like willing to do to put on that show. So.
Yeah, there's I would like for I guess for like certain audience types for like if it's like for classical music, the only time I think I would put this on is like if the audience is like not like really like middle school or like high school.
So,
Like
so
when
education.
they're not as matured in their imaginative landscape. But like I would like definitely use this like a silent film where like like in Tom and Jerry like they have like the film up top and they have like the down there. Like I would do something like that, like where like the music is like a fundamental addition to the silent film, but otherwise.
And they did have to do those to click tracks. When Jerry bounces to like that and you have the trombone, that's pretty hard. But the other thing I was thinking is you can also augment your instruments automatically, because a lot of this will run audio. So let's say you're running, you want to bring in your guitar pedal and wrap it out. You can have that automated. And so things like that, because that's just MIDI stuff and all that. So depending on how involved you are in the audio side and tech side of things, you can expand this to beyond visuals. Touch Designer does generative visuals. There's all the AI stuff that's going on now. So I mean, there's tons of different ways where you could type in the lyrics to a Schumann thing and see what kind of AI comes up and spit that out.
We're going to have to stop because we're going to have to get ready. The room very good. First of all, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll post the videos since you played it all so well.
Yeah, I have all three of our sessions. The first two are up on YouTube unlisted or whatever, so I'll send that to the profs and they can disseminate it out.
And secondly, if you have any more responses, could you email them to me so I can forward them to Rafaela, because then we can include them in our report. Okay?
Yeah, and especially, what would you need to learn? What would you need to do in order to be able to use something like this?
Yeah. And Catherine, your response, since you were involved in it, you're especially helpful for us for that one. Okay? Thanks again. I will see you.